Hey guys, what's up? It's episode 7 of BP Crow's Nest on September 14th, and we are going to be talking about the Steel Curtain Raid, which is now in progress. Let me get some screen sharing going, and we're going to jump right into it because we got a fair amount of slides to cover. So here we go. Get my mouse over in the right screen. Bug fixes and tuning. They fixed an issue where some players were unable to access their base planner. That's really good that they fixed that because not being able to access your base planner would be a terrible thing. Especially right now, getting ready to go into OP10, and I'm sure lots of people are still doing changes from getting their portals and changing base designs and stuff. That not being able to use your base planner would be a terrible thing. And they also fixed an issue where you would be unable to snap move portals to legal areas in certain circumstances. Shane, you said you knew what that was about because they confused the shit out of me.
Well, from what I've had happening before was I would say I'd take and move by gate to a different spot, and if I went back to put it in that exact spot where it just came from, which was a valid spot, it wouldn't go. So, I mean, when I'd sit there and find that it's supposed to go where I was wanting to put it, I would have to refresh before I can get it to do so.
Gotcha. Kind of like the problem we have sometimes if we move one guard boat from our base and try to put another one there. We can't do it unless we go out to the map or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's still for some reason registering that the old boat is there, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, I guess that's what it would seem.
All right, something similar to that then.
Yeah.
Okay, like we were talking about, we got Steel Curtain going on right now. I didn't bother to put start times because it started everywhere by now. So, but it will last till Wednesday. Whatever your end time is for your particular world. We got a new badge this time around. If you claim the Fang Tooth, you will get the Lurker badge, which I personally think that badge is pretty cool looking. Kind of reminds me of some Halloween looking thingy. That's just me though. And there's a new achievement, Metal Rain achievement, and you get that just for participating in the raids. So for all you achievement hoarders and badge hoarders out there, there you go. There's your loot for this raid. We got the S targets. There's 2 targets in the S set or tier 7, whichever you want to call it. You got the 100 and the 106. I find that the 100's pretty much the same as they've been for the last couple raids. The 106s, though, there's some sneaky little buggers there. Apparently, not only is there more drones in there, but they have charged armors on these drones. You can tell because, every time your missiles hit them, they get that little red glow, and you can see the little bar on them depleting. So, yeah, that was kind of, I don't know, that was some dirty pool in my opinion. I think just the additional drones would have been more than sufficient. I don't think they needed to go with that whole charged armor on that route thing. But yeah, so you got the 2 targets. The 100 pays out 1,250,000, and the 106 pays out 3.5 million, and then you get 4,250,000 bonus. So you're looking at basically 9 million points per tier 7 set, which is actually pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good payout for 2 targets, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the point payout is high. It's probably the highest we've seen.
It might be the highest it's been, but I don't know. The points, I mean, the points, how many points you need still keeps going on up, and I don't really know if that compensation is high enough yet or not.
Right. No, yeah. If you're matching it like that, I guess in ratio-wise, I guess you're right. I think the points that needed went up drastically.
I know, yeah, for the 106, like Captain Who was just saying in chat, you can go in and prep out the drones with your Skyfires if you got a decent Skyfire fleet. Like, me personally, I still only have 3 Skyfires built. I never got around to building the flagship or my 4th Skyfire. So I actually take almost more damage going in and trying to prep out the drones with my UAVs than if I just do the entire target with my Phoenixes. So it all depends on where you're at in your Skyfire fleet, whether that's an effective way for you to do it or not, I suppose. We got 2 blitz targets, the level 89 and the level 69. Level 89 pays out 1 million points, and it's minimum of 5 gold to blitz it, and the 69 pays out 200,000, and it's a minimum of 1 gold to blitz that. So then we have tier 4 targets, the 41, the 43, and the 45. And then there's a 80,000 tier bonus for those. And then tier 5, you got the 61, 63, 65. And you got the 500,000 tier bonus for that. And tier 6, you got the 81, the 83, and the 85. And you got the 2,150,000 bonus for that. So there you go. That's all your payouts for your different tiers.
Now, did those bonuses stay the same as last time, or?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
know. I was doing these slides at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I was just trying to get them done, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to do a bunch of comparison stuff.
Sounds good. I was thinking it's comparative. I don't think it's too much off myself. Just a guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. I think it's pretty similar to what it was before. Uranium, the payout for your actual raid points is crap like always. For 150,000 points, you get 800. For 500,000, you get 1,500. For 2 million, you get 5,000. For 5 million, you get 10,000. And for 10,000, you get 20,000. Or for 10 million, you get 20 million or 20,000. Jeez, I can't talk. The only saving grace for uranium during raids is the Zoe Man Wars. I mean, a lot of people can do them for instant repair, and they give you 42,000 uranium a pop. So if it wasn't for Zoe's, uranium would be horrible during raids.
Yep,
I agree.
Then we got the Fang Tooth.
All right. What we have here, excuse me, on the Fang Tooth here is it's the new sub. It's the new the top sub. It's going to never surface Now, I do know that they did mention that if you do hit it with the cavitator field in the old school, it will cavitate. So, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be seen. So even though some people do ask always, does that mean that you're not going to be able to spot it? No, this will get spotted. What it has here is an incredible concussive range. Plus 14%. So this hull is actually going to be the fleet-to-fleet hull in the game, as far as in my opinion. I think it's going to outrange. It will, if I'm correct, that outranges all thermal in the game.
I'll accept that 100. Unlike the Courage or a Nemesis or a Hellstar, or whichever ones have the 100 thermal. Don't that range come up to like 98?
Yeah, I think it's 97 or 98 because I think it has the exact same range as the Dredge, or as the Dread ability.
When I figured it out, okay, then I did compute it wrong. I'm thinking it's higher, but at 14, well, regardless, 14% concussive range is huge. So this really is going to be a fleet-to-fleet ship. It's going to be amazing as far as I can tell. Now what it has is it comes with a combat speed of 30, the map speed to 50. That's standard. Now the ship it's unreactive, so it comes with an automatic explosive defense of plus 60%, a concussive defense of plus 65%. Now the a sonar range of 32. Now the special abilities is where this hull is really going to come into play. It has this hostile field, and I can't. What's the Dread? I'm sorry, I just drew a blank. The field's called Dread, and it does come out to a range of 97. Now this field will it impedes the attacker's combat speed and fire reload. Am I correct on this?
Well,
Yeah.
on there it says armor bypass and combat speed. Now, what's that? Flat reload modifier. Is that? From what I understood, the dude said that it make the ships where they won't fire.
That's what. That's why I was thinking it did not. I thought he mentioned that it did not fire, but I'm reading here that it says flat reload modifier plus 1 second. So maybe it stops them for a time period. I know that this field effect is supposed to be quite an amazing feature and new to the game. So this will be a.
And don't those stack for how many ships you have in a fleet?
It does say it does stack.
Yeah, I would assume the flat reload modifier just means like if the opposing ships are firing at a 1 second reload, if they're within this area of effect, they're then firing at a 2 second reload.
Okay.
Or if they have the 0.2 fire rate, it would actually take it up to a 1 second.
Right. Then it puts them up to 1.2 or whatever. That would be my understanding.
But then if you have 4 ships in the fleet, that would take it up to 4 seconds.
Seems like that's the way that reads.
Okay.
So, that could be quite the effect. I mean, really.
Concussive armor bypass that would be minus 40% if it's all additive.
Yeah, if it's all additive and not multiplicative.
I'm not seeing. I think the top two would be multiplicative. I don't see a plus sign in front of them. Combat speed and concussive armor bypass.
I don't know, because man, you can just imagine how confused people would get if they would put a plus sign and then a minus on.
Yeah.
They're trying to make things less complicated nowadays, not more complicated.
I did want to mention though on this the hull though you pay attention to the weight when you're building this hull. When you put it in the shipyard, you do want to check over if you don't have the charge armors. You do not want to put the heaviest armors possible on this. It is my understanding. The weight you're going to have an issue.
You could also, like, even if you did want to go the heavy armors, you could also like do a variety of different torps on it, I suppose. You know, put some of the new torps that we'll be talking about here in a minute. Like put some of those and then support that with like fires and twisters or charons or sixes or whatever you choose.
Right. All right, and then we have this the Delirium torpedo. Now this is a Scourge Tech. What we have here, it's concussive also. It's a heavy torpedo at 450 tons. The accuracy is 100. Now this isn't, as far as I'm understanding, it's not a dumbfire weapon. So this will actually it's like a old torpedo where it fires and it hits. And so its range is 88, a reload time of 4. It does come with a wall damage and a building damage, and I think that's just so it doesn't have a splash, correct?
Speaking of which, too, I did the math, and actually the 88 range torpedoes, when you put them on the Fangtooth, they do end up with a 100 range.
Okay, so it does, yeah, at 100.37, I thought, maybe, or something like. So I think you can even wiggle, and if you were to attack, you know, from the right direction, you could outrange thermal.
Yeah, it's quite possibly, you know, if you hit it from that correct angle or whatever, ride that razor's edge. But boy, heaven help you if you make a small mistake in your driving.
Yes, but I mean, but if you don't, this is kind of amazing.
Well, it'll be a lot easier because I mean I've outranged thermal and sonar, well thermal mainly, by being 2 under what it was. You know, I've outranged 80 thermal with 78 range torpedoes. You know, so 100. The same range as the thermal. It's tight, but it's not going to be incredibly tight.
I really think the psychotic brake ability for this torpedo is really interesting.
I do too. And I see now. Let's see here. We can read into the psychotic brake. It's a jam, correct? It's a 3-second jam on your attacker now. This you should be able to stay out of range though, shouldn't you? I keep looking at. I think of you're at 100 range on a torpedo on a ship that doesn't surface. Boy.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is though, it only has a 0.3% chance to proc, and then it has like a 10-second cooldown, so it's not like you can constantly keep their weapons shut down.
Okay. And then it does say it has a visible range of 24, so that's just somewhere you see the torp. And this is actually the damage is 1,750. This is a strong, good torp. This will be the next go-to torpedo, I would think. It's my guess. I haven't tested it on anything myself yet, but it looks good.
Berean in chat keeps saying that the psychotic brake works like a stun, but that's not necessarily fully accurate, because like your boats can still sail and everything when there's under psychotic brake. It's just your weapons don't fire. And that torpedo comes in at 25 million points, right?
Yes, 25 million. Now we had the advanced torpedo tubes that goes with that, the special, and that's for 15 million points. So we're talking quite a few points on these here. Now the weapon weight is 10%. Now this here is the new. This will be the new special for torpedoes with the concussive reload of plus 30, but the torpedo damage is now plus 70%. So that is huge from plus 50 in any special prior. Plus 70 is huge. So this is the new go-to special for torpedoes.
Yeah. I mean, that's in my opinion, that's a great special for torpedoes. I think it's interesting though the way they made it torpedo specifically. That way you can't use them on like Gatling guns and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that would have been yes.
Yeah.
With the concussive damage. Yeah.
And then next on the list we got the charged armor.
Alrighty, this is the new. Concussive charged armor. Of course, we kind of figured this one was coming. Got the armor pool of 205,000, I guess, and you'll get a concussive damage reduction of 32,250, and of course the minimum damage coming through of 1% or just 1, and then the D5 equivalent of armor is the 18% defense, and then your 20 deflections at 10 million each, another 10 armors. That's 100 million just for that, which is the norm, I guess, for these every time they come out new. Because I've noticed that the Charge X's, they're charging only 3 million a pop for them.
Yeah, all the older ones have definitely dropped in price. I honestly though, this is better than the price of the corrosive one when it came out, because wasn't the corrosive one when it first came out 12 million?
12, yeah, it's the one they boosted up. I think missile and the explosive were 10 million, and like you said, when they brought the corrosive out, they upped the price on it. So at least, I mean, they brought it back down to a standard 10 million, which in my opinion is still too much. In my opinion, I'm still not agreeing with the limited parts idea. It's just causing too many points for these events to have to get all these items when all this stuff is being limited, especially armors, because you need so many of those for a fleet.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it wouldn't be so bad if this was the only limited thing in this particular raid, but as we'll see here in a minute, it's not.
Yes, exactly. All right. The brand new elite countermeasure. Coaxial on steroids here. Got the 120 range on it with a spread of 28 and a splash of 5. It's got a salvo of 9. So, but the reload on it's 0.8. But when you're putting this in, splash specials and such, from what I understand, they worked on the draconian coaxial, so I don't see why they wouldn't work on this. Increasing the splash of this particular countermeasure turret will greatly increase its effectiveness on what you got going on.
Oh, absolutely. This turret is going to be so good against, like, muddle missiles and MIRV and stuff, because since they have that splash, they're just going to take out big clumps of the muddle missiles.
Yeah, and if you position two of these correctly, you can kind of get them to off-fire each other, offset one fire than the other fire, and you'll fill in those gaps, those firing rate gaps, because 9 salvo, that's going to give you like almost, what is that, 1.8 seconds of fire time and then a 0.8 second reload.
Yeah, I think so.
So offsetting these things might be helpful, like separate them by like a turret space on incoming fire. Might be a good way to set them up.
Well, and like with that 0.8 second reload too, there's so many different specials out there and installments and whatnot that can lower that reload time even more. That you could possibly get that down to, like, the 0.2 thing.
I don't know that you could bring down the fire rate on these turrets with any specials. This would be in a countermeasure and all. I don't think there's any reloads for your turrets.
Maybe not. There isn't part of fire support though that it also shortens reload, or no?
Fire support does shorten reload if it's off of warehouses or outpost.
Right, and that's where a lot of people
sure if that affects countermeasures or not. I mean, it could, but I'm not positive if it does or not.
Yeah, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but I would think so. But yeah, I mean, 5 million points pop, and limit of 5. Yeah. If we had a drinking word on our show, our drinking word this week would probably be limit. But you're all adults; you can take your own drink if you feel like it.
And then we got the new Epic Cataclysm Mortar. From what I've seen, it's just a little bit stronger than our Cataclysm mortars, but you get the more range out of it, and you get a smaller donut hole out of it. So, I mean, it is a better mortar. From what I read on the stats, I'm guessing it has a lower arc, which means quicker to target capability. So, I mean, I think this would be a good replacement for the cat mortars, but I don't think it's extraordinarily more powerful. I just think the effectiveness of it might be a little faster.
Hey, and guess what? It's limited.
Yeah, there's only 5 of them also at 5 million a pop. Another 25 million if you wanted to collect all of those.
So, I mean, all these are great turrets. Let me tell you kind of the downside that I have found out already, though. Like, I've already claimed one of the Wendigo and one of the countermeasure one. And it looks like build time on them is going to be anywhere from around 25 to 27 days.
That is redunculous.
So here's my hope, though. Here's my hope is that the build time of them is based around the fact that OP10 is literally right around the corner, and we're going to get new levels of warehouses. And hopefully, as we upgrade our warehouses, that will give us access to store enough base parts to get them down to a much more reasonable amount of time.
Well, that would have to be raising it up over 2 million. Right now, I've got like 1.2 million on mine. That covers pretty much almost 14 days. Pretty close.
Yeah, so basically, it would have to double what it is.
Yeah, it'd have to double, and then if you double that, boy, that's a lot of collecting.
It is.
Base parts is hard to reach 1.2 million as it is. It's taxing enough. And if you want me to go to 2.5, it's like, oh my God, that would be daunting to fill up those warehouses. But then we got the Cannibal Wendigo.
Hey, is that limited?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
5 of them as well, which I'll probably I was planning on just doing 2. That's all I ever had of the regular Wendigos. And use them for their effects. Looks like they changed up how it actually works. Instead of defenses, they actually went to deflections on this. on
Which
that side.
yeah, it makes a ton of sense, you know,
Yeah,
since
yes, it
pretty
does.
much all the Conquerors have defense handicap of 100%. So
Yeah, it makes me wonder if some other weapons are actually doing effects since they were based upon the old defense systems. You know, uh, things that affect defense and not uh, deflection. But if I'm understanding right, if on the defensive side your defenses are supposed to work, so I don't know if that would still do anything on your offensive side hitting them when they come and attack you. Anything to do with defenses. So going upgrading to the deflection side is a good deal. The damage on this thing is pretty good. 4,000 a pop. It's 20,000 damage between 5 salvos. So 4,000 a pop on each flechette, and then you got a 30,000 uh, shockwave damage. Now my question is this? I guess this is like the regular Wendigo. It's got a supercharge of 16.
correct.
So you should get that supercharge every time it fires. And then that fire field chance of 20%. I'm guessing that's, I don't get that because, I mean, the Wendigo, it's automatically supposed to leave an ice field every time it fires since it's got the time 16. So I'm not sure if it leaves fire and ice or if it's just
I
ice.
would guess this one actually just leaves a fire field as opposed to an ice field.
Okay. And
So even with the supercharge of 16, we have a maybe additional 20% chance for fire field. Is that?
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not quite sure on that because, I mean, every time my Wendigo would fire, it would cause
It
the
would
ice
ice.
field because,
Right.
I mean, that's the reason it had the time 16 on there.
Okay.
But
I don't think the time 16 has anything to do with how often the fire field's going to proc. I think the time 16 is just for building up your shockwave.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it leaves that ice field on the water. So I don't know where that 20% fire field chance comes in.
Well, I don't think the fire field on this one is based on the shockwave procking. Is what I'm.
Okay. Fire field on this one right here is
It's separate.
probably it's
Yeah, it's probably similar to like incendiary shells. You know, it just has a chance of putting out fire whenever the flechette hits, and it doesn't need to do a shockwave to put the fire field out there.
Okay.
yeah.
It's just got a 20%.
And the reload negatives on these is pretty decent. Minus 40% reload on all weapon types. So pretty good weapon all in all. Freaking limited.
That Aura-Cap 5, duplicate Aura-Cap 5, that could be really interesting. Because, you know, you get 5 auras going from 5 Wendigos, and then you're talking about, like, say, radioactive deflection. You'll reduce their radioactive deflection by, like, 4,500, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it basically negates a Shockwave 5 plate, or a Shockwave 4 plate, rather. So, I mean, it can definitely come in handy sometimes. And then, you know, with the reload stuff, I'm sure there's diminishing returns on, you know, the duplicate auras, because otherwise you'd be like, reducing their reloads by like 200%, if not.
Well, that would cut them in half, wouldn't it? I mean, I know it says 75% reload, but don't that come up to like a 400% reload in reality?
Yeah.
So you won't shut them all the way down, but you can halfway shut them down if that's the case, if that's how it works.
Okay. So, yeah, I personally, I think this turret has a whole lot of potential. Like, I don't know that I'll end up putting all 5 in my base like you. I'll probably go like the 3 route, maybe.
Yeah, I'll probably, I mean, I got 2 Wendigos in my base right now. So this would be direct replacements for them. And the Wendigos in my base are for effect, not for damage. They're strategically placed to shut people down when I can shoot at them.
And of course, a lot of this will depend too on like the whole base part situation when we are able to upgrade our warehouses, because even it's like even with full base parts, if you got to wait like 15 days to get one of these in your base, I might cut it down to 2 at that point in time, because 45 days is a long time to wait for 3 turrets, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then to be honest, 20 whatever days period is ridiculous. I mean, for somebody who can't get base parts, or to wait a month on each turret
Well,
is ridiculous. I mean,
let's be honest though. Let's be honest though. Anybody who can't get base parts is probably not going to be able to get this turret anyway.
No, exactly. That's not.
Well, there's a lot of people get stuff given to them in this game. But I mean, I'm just saying the straight up point, 24 days for having to apply one weapon is way too much.
I'll say this: if they can get raid points given to them, they should have no problem getting base parts given to them then either. True,
but I mean, still, I think it's just way too much for time.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like, cause I'll be more interested to see when the warehouses come up, and like if they're going to change the regular Drac mining bases over to the Scourge siege bases, it'll be interesting to see how much they pay out. Because if they up the limit of our warehouses and then those bases end up paying out a whole lot of base parts, it could probably be okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to work out that way, because as it is now, it would be really taxing.
Yeah, it's definitely a very dependent factor on, whether this is that's okay, or this is a, what in the hell were you thinking thing. It's very dependent on those two things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that turret that also slows down the attacker 30% and stacked. Also, I did want to say that right before we go.
Yeah. Combat speed.
And so
with people who are going like with the really speed heavy rages, that'll definitely be good against them.
Yeah, that's why I have Wendigos in mine now at the moment. Like I said, it shuts them down, takes their sprint ability away.
Okay.
So we got the Brennus Unstoppable Sloth, or the Bus, as it's commonly known around the shop, apparently.
Okay, well, what we have here is it's the new lead Sloth, and it's going to be a new flagship for the Sloth. It comes with a stock armor points 75,000. It is a tier 6.5, so it's the top. It's a new spotter. I'm sorry, clear my throat. This assault comes with explosive range of plus 25%, a mortar reload of plus 50%, and the splash on it is 100%. So it's going to be a really quite the mortar haul. The range with the explosive damage of 25% and the remote targeting range is 100%. As far as I know, that stacks. Excuse me, I'm trying to clear my throat here.
No dying live on air, Ross. That's not allowed.
Right. Well, it's further now. I'm trying to go through here. Okay. So on the remote targeting range is 100%. Now, it only had the fall off of the 5%, so that's really going to remote range farther than any haul in the game currently. The evade, it's negative 100%, so that doesn't really matter. Now, the ballistic and penetrative corrosive deflection are all very large. The concussive deflection is going to come into play also. Radioactive deflection is high, but the splash damage reduction is where it's really going to be. I see the big point. 50% is pretty large, so that's going to make a difference there. I think that the speed. Let's see. I'm trying to. Yeah, the speed is 15. It was slower, so it's going to be.
It's not so slothy anymore, is it?
Not so slothy any longer.
Well, especially when you look at the flagship buff that it gives over there, to it and all other sloths in the fleet, it gives them what 100%.
100%. Yep.
Correct. Now, and I think that, but I think that only stacked to 3. Correct. It says duplicate.
That's duplicate or cap of 1, so they will only be affected by the flagship.
Okay.
Yeah, the duplicate aura of 3 was on the sloths.
Was on the sloth. Right. I was just trying to figure out the fleet. So, so you want to, you want to use this with some other sloth actually.
Yeah, yeah, you'll want to boost up those effects. Say if you're running this and 2 other sloths, you'll end up with what, 75% explosive damage, 75% uh, splash damage reduction, and like 30% remote targeting range.
Yeah.
If you run 3 of these in a fleet with, say, like 2 pointers.
Right.
You know.
So this would now, as far as I'm correct now, if you did run this with 2 slots, this is now the longest range in the game, correct?
Yeah, with that 25% explosive range on it,
Yes,
it gives it 112 range.
correct. Okay, so
So
now
yeah,
it is now the
longest range offensive
yes.
weapon we have. Isn't the retribution with the slingers close to that as well?
Retribution with the slingers is 108.
Yes.
Oh, 108. Okay, so not quite.
Yeah, the courage with the slingers, I believe, comes in at like 116.
Okay,
Yeah,
with the
but
slingers, mine have 118.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. I couldn't remember.
But with the with the launchers, I think it's 112. So it might match this one with the launchers on a courage.
Okay, that's good to know. It's good to know. But this actually everyone does need to know that this will hit reach your standard island base layout that we've had for the last couple years. This now can reach your island, so be aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, enjoy it for like the 1 week or so that you can until we get the new OP and all those extra land tiles.
Well, however long it takes to get that stuff implemented.
Yes, yeah.
We don't know what the build time on the OP10 is yet, but I'm sure quite a few people like me have stored up a few base parts.
Correct. One of the most interesting things I think about this whole too is the very last thing, the duplicate aura cap of 1 that affects any conquerors and gives them the 11,000 concussive deflection.
Yeah,
that's very everybody got the Axiom not too long ago, so I think this is kind of partially in direct response to everybody having the Axiom.
Yeah, it's kind of feeling, isn't it? This sure does feel like Axiom oriented, for that reason. They also added it to the regular sloths, like 5,000 each.
We'll get to those in just a minute.
Oh, okay.
And this is again it's 60 million points. So this is it's in a big expense haul. Not quite sure the shelf life on this haul, but it does look interesting, everyone. So it's.
Well, hopefully it could breathe some life into the sloths, because I don't think the sloths ever got a day. Not even a day. I mean, the modal missile come out with the gluttony, and it just totally shot the sloth in the foot.
What I think is the most interesting about this whole myself is the paint job. We were talking, we were talking in the pre-show, and it kind of reminded us of like a 1980s Transformer type paint job.
Yeah. Looks like the latest Optimus Prime flame job truck there.
Right. Yeah, like when I saw the color patterns and everything, honestly, Optimus Prime was the first thing I thought of for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I want it just for the paint job, truly, but that's the cool part.
And then they got the regular sloth back in. I like my little catchphrase there. Now with less slothiness.
Right. Yeah. The combat speed did go from 8 to 15 on this haul, so it's also the class conqueror. What they did change on that, they added the concussive deflection of 5502. So this really did add, and this stacks up to duplicate aura cap of 3. So this right here, if you added a few in a mixed fleet, this says Axiom all over it. These will you should do well with Axiom.
Yeah, because I mean, just the 3 regular sloths and the flagship, you're looking at an extra 27,000 concussive deflection at that point.
That's crazy. And that just barely clears over what my Axiom can do at max damage per show.
Right.
So it's a little hurtful to these. new weapons, but I noticed something on here that these armor points are lower than everybody else, and they're still. I know they got the splash reduction, but they're still susceptible to explosive. So, uh, priority targeting is a possible option still for going for these lower health ships, if that's in anybody's strategies.
Again, something else I can see too is like I can see a fleet of like Raina's Rage, 2 Rages, and then 2 Sloths backing them up for the extra concussive deflection. I can see that happening.
Yeah, and utilizing their shroud and remote the mortar ships there for sure.
Yeah,
no, that's exactly what I'm going to use these for. I'm not a big fan of the Sloth, but I have a few built. I just kept them. Thank God I did keep them, but I can see that concussive deflection, and I can stack it. So I honestly, if you were to throw the Reanimer and a couple of Rages together and a couple of Sloths, you're going to now make it a little farther than in some of those bases that you did before.
Yeah,
it was definitely nice to see this hull get some extra love this time around, though, because like it had been seriously overlooked.
Yeah, it was pretty much passed by as soon as it came out.
Yeah. Then we got the whole list of PvE hulls. I'm not going to go down all individually. You can go on the forums and peruse it at your leisure. I'm just going to, on these charts, I'm going to highlight the things I think are worth getting. Cannoneer, 2 million points. I would definitely grab it, because with switching the Drac mines over to the Siege Scourge things, you're definitely going to want to have some Cannoneers to be able to go gather your base parts if you don't have them already. And 2 million points, I think, is pretty much a steal, to be honest.
Definitely. Cannoneers are the way to go. I know the Ironclads work well, but a full fleet of Cannoneers is kind of hard to beat, effective-wise, on these Scourge base part targets, Scourge or whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree. PvP hulls, I'm still, honestly, at this point, they're probably I would always consider them beginner base hitters, but medium base hitters, I would say. Prides are still really good. And Prides will also get you through a ton of the campaigns that are out there and available right now that involve base hitting. And 4 million points for the actual Pride itself, and only 8 million for the Sago Pride. Definitely worth picking up.
I would agree. And there's a couple other things. You can go back through, and the Spite is if you're having some problems against some Rages, the Spite actually is a pretty darn good hull. It can take some shots.
Yeah, I still use a Spite in the dubs myself because I use an Omega. I use the Spite and its ballistic damage deflection to soak up the damage that my Omega would usually be getting.
Right. Very good.
Rather than each corner, I'd usually take like 15 minutes damage on my Omega. On all 4 corners, I take like 2 minutes damage off of that one Spite. So, very effective on diverting it getting hit over something else.
Right. Now it still has a good build time and everything like that. So I don't know if you really want to, if you start out building a Spite again. But
from what I heard, it also does pretty well against the current Rages. It's decent.
It does do decent.
So still totally useful hull.
Yes.
Then we got our regular PvE components. Again, there's way too many on here to talk about, so I'm just going to kind of highlight some of them. Gale Defense System 3 and hydraulic resistors, any of that limited stuff anytime it comes back out is a good thing. Everybody always can use Gales, and hydraulic resistors are just nice because they give you a little bit of concussive resistance, and plus you can actually stack thrusters with this, and you can't do that on stuff like Speed System 5. So if you really want a lot of speed turns, you can stack thrusters with this, and that'll get you way up there. You got the older charged armors, you got the corrosive, the explosive, and the M. They've all dropped drastically in price So I would definitely recommend picking up them if you want some extra laying around. Especially like if you don't have a whole lot of X's right now. X's are still going to be useful in this upcoming raid format because the damage types will be explosive and concussive. So, you know, if you're not satisfied with where you're at, definitely you've got 3 million points of off. They're definitely not a bad deal.
And if you're still working towards the current FM, the X's and the M's would definitely be some good pieces to get to upgrade your current FM fleet.
Correct.
Those lower prices for sure.
Garrison battery, I like that a whole lot. You know, it's almost like siege battery, only it ups your explosive damage. So, and sometimes you're actually better off using garrison battery over siege battery due to weight issues. So that's definitely something I would grab if I didn't have it. Mimic a system for your subs. That's to me that's a great item for subs. The Millennium gun, especially if you get the cannoneers earlier that we were talking about, and high velocity rounds, still one of my favorite specials in the game currently because projectile speed fast is a good thing.
Yeah, and like you said, getting the cannoneer and be able to do the sage parts and all that ballistic damage boost you get from that high velocity rounds is a big boon as well.
Then we got PvP components. My personal ones I picked out were strike warheads, resonance capacitor, and narrow firing aperture. Did you guys see anything else on the list that you thought was interesting?
Oh, these are PvP.
Well,
no, not really. I mean, the prices are palatable for each of these items. So, I mean, I haven't incorporated a torpid mortar yet. I don't know how much better they are than the D85Ds. You know, but the prices on all this stuff looks decent, and nothing's limited items in here, so that's a big plus.
no, that's what I see. I mean, those were the same items I would recommend.
Turrets, the ones I highlighted, Glacial Launcher, I think is still going to be good for a really long time just because of its effects. Splash Dispersion System 3, or 2 rather, that kind of, it's not really a turret, but you know, it's one of those base things that helps out against stuff. I think that's a good one because Splash just becomes more and more and more of a thing in this game. So anything that will help negate some of that damage is good. The Eruption Fire Special, you know, I personally like that one, and Zithium Shells both. They both give you some projectile speed for your turrets, and that's definitely a good thing.
Definitely.
No, I myself, you never know. I like that anti-rocketeer turret. You know, I get my dock rocketed all the time, so I like that.
People are very. It seems like people are kind of equally split over the Rocketeer people or turrets. Some people really like them, and some people like that thing's a waste of time.
Well,
so
I agree. I mean,
it depends on a couple things, probably. It depends on one thing really. It depends on how often you get rocketed. Is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and overall, the 4. If you wanted to put any of them on there, the 4 is the way to go. Because 3 and down, they are really not that effective from what I've seen. So at least they're offering the 4, which I think is the useful one. If you are going to put that in your base, it's the one that works the best.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. If you're going to use one at all, to use the 4, and instead use a weapon. If you don't have the 3s, I'd go with a weapon or an anti now, a new anti maybe.
The main reason I didn't highlight the Cataclysm Mortar too is just because we have the new limited one in this current raid. So if you have the option, I would get that one probably over the regular one.
Right.
But you know, if you don't have the regular one already, for only 2 million points, that's not a bad deal.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I don't think it's really a lot more powerful than the new mortar over the old one there. So the Cataclysm's still useful. My Cataclysms actually do hurt the rages a pretty good tick when they get pounded with on them. But I use the inner donut hole for whenever they start coming into my channel, that they can shoot out there to the outside fleet. And this newer mortar having a smaller donut hole, that wouldn't be, the same thing wouldn't be happening. So it depends on strategy, as far as putting the layouts out there between the two mortars, whether you utilize that donut hole or not.
Correct. Then we got tokens, of course. You know, there's 10 1-hour ship build tokens. Always get your generic ship build tokens if possible. You know, and then you got the 4 12 hours and the 3 1 days. There had been a typo in the original prize list, and in the original list they had only had it at 2 1 days and 3 12 hours, but they have since fixed that.
Okay, cool.
And then they have structure build tokens. You know, you can get 2-day structure build tokens. You can get up to 10 of them. You can't hold all 10, so be mindful of that. But you know, with these with those 25-day turrets that we were talking about earlier, you know, spending these can be a very wise way to get one of them in your base right away. And then they have, you know, of course, just the specific tokens, and that's all kind of hit or miss based on what you yourself are currently building or see yourself building in the future. I personally, Zelos build tokens are always good. You know, if you can get an extra 2 million points here and there, you can grab up to 5 of them. Because Zeloses are kind of almost like a mainstay in the game right now, in my opinion. Like, I myself use 2 ballistic Zeloses to do 113s in the FM, and I absolutely love them.
Yeah, they seem to be the new wave Punisher. Really good in multiple aspects.
Yes, great hull. Great hull.
Of course, then they have some Phoenixes, some Skyfires, some Monoliths, some Icebreakers. Quite honestly, with all the campaigns they've had for Monoliths and Icebreakers, I'm not even sure why they would put build tokens for those in this raid. But you know, whatever. Of course, they got the Hellwraith tokens. Like Hellwraith, if you don't think you're going to be able to get up to the Fangtooth, and you want to look into building some Hellwraiths for the next upcoming raid cycle, you know, this would be a good chance to get working on that, buying some of those 1-day tokens. Same if you think you might want to try with the Tide Seekers instead, you can get up to 10 1-days in there. And you can get a bunch of different VXP tokens too.
Okay.
And then last but not least, you got the shards. You got your Proto shards, you got your Hellstar shards, you got your Ghostcrawler shards, Man of War shards, Gamma Behemoth shards, and Katie shards. And if you notice, none of them are highlighted green.
Yeah. The capital ships are, they still need their revamp or whatever they was going to do with them. They're not very, the repair time just kills me on them, all of them. How much the repair time is on those dudes. Totally not even worth building for me. With that repair time.
I agree. But I'm pretty sure that's the last slide for today. Let me double check and make sure. Yep, that's the last slide for today. Kind of went through everything a little bit quick, but you know, we all got raids that we want to get back to. I definitely want to thank everybody for watching the video, whether you're watching it live or you're going to watch it later. I definitely want to point out, too, that Tuesday, September 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will have GD Aerospecs and Major Rampage on here going over like the bundle info of all the OP10 stuff, and we will be questioning them about some other things, such as like bounty and what's going to happen with future iterations of that, and a couple other things. So definitely stop by and check that show out if you get the opportunity. It should be very interesting. It's apparently, you know, like I know they've gone through and done a bunch of the shows this week, and a bunch of guys have gotten piecemeal information, and then apparently we're going to get like the whole wrap-up package when they come to us. So yeah, it's definitely going to be worth watching. I'm pretty excited. But until next time. Yeah, until next time, if you like what you saw and you found any of our info useful, smash that like button and hit subscribe, and we will talk to you on Tuesday. Later, guys.
See y'all later.
Good night.